Real Virginia is proudly produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. Since 1926, Farm Bureau has been working to preserve Virginia farms and our rural heritage. Visit our website at vafb.com.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Hello everyone and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce all the wonderful products we enjoy, brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau.
Virginia has a growing cheese industry. Chris Mullins tells us about raising snack peppers, and farmers continue to thrive even in the heart of Northern Virginia.
Welcome back everyone. We're coming to you from J. Emerson Incorporated Fine Wines and Cheese in Richmond, Virginia. They sell Virginia cheese here, and cheese making in Virginia has become so popular, you could say that Virginia is for cheese lovers.
The International Dairy Foods Organization says the U.S. produces the most cheese in the world. Cheese making has been documented back at least 4,000 years. In the past decade, more than 36 Virginia cheesemakers have received international acclaim for their artisan cheeses. It's part of a local foods boom that started decades ago with Virginia's resurgent wine industry.
The cheese is following wine, and we're really at that point where you're looking at cheese culture developing in Virginia. You're seeing that in small independent producers, farmstead cheeses, but you're also seeing it in some larger operations like Meadow Creek and Galax.
Cheesemongers like Mitchell say the environmental factors that give Virginia cheeses a unique flavor are called terroir. Just like Virginia wine varieties, cheeses receive their distinctive taste from where they are produced.
There's the industry term called terroir, or a sense of place, where things come from. And you're going to think about what are the ruminants, the sheep, goat, cows eating, and that's going to give a sense of what's there in the flora, and it's going to come through in the taste.
Virginia cheese is typically made from cow, sheep, or goat's milk. The Old Dominion's fertile soil and mild climate create an ideal terroir for raising dairy livestock. That is what brought Molly Croyce and her husband Sam home from Washington State to become the 8th generation to work their family's Loudoun County farm. Here they produce George's Mill goat cheese with the help from their goat herd.
We put that milk into, in our case, if we're making fresh cheese, we would put it into our pasteurizer. So anything aged for less than 60 days in the U.S. has to be made with pasteurized milk as opposed to raw milk. So if we're making our fresh cheeses, we would pasteurize it first. And then after we've cooled the milk down to usually about between 75 and 90 degrees, depending on the type of cheese we're making, we add a bacterial culture. So cheese making is done through acidification of the milk and also the use of an enzyme called rennet, which helps to coagulate it.
Cheese is made when milk is curdled on purpose. Artisanal cheese refers to cheeses produced by hand using the traditional craftsmanship of skilled cheesemakers. Artisanal cheeses can take weeks, months, or even years to produce. Cow, goat, or sheep milk can be made into soft cheeses or aged into hard cheese types. Consumers are used to seeing familiar cheese varieties at the grocery store like Swiss, mozzarella, cheddar, American, and Parmesan. But the world of cheese goes far beyond. There are more than 1,700 different kinds of cheese to explore worldwide.
We're having to raise the goats, breed them, have their babies, take care of them through that whole period, milk them every day, take that milk and then turn it into cheese. So it's very much a value-added farm product, but it's still very much an agricultural endeavor. It's expensive, but you just have to rethink how you're using it. Sort of the same way that we need to rethink how much meat we eat, and you don't need to have hamburgers every meal. You also don't need to be eating huge amounts of cheese. Cheese is a really nutrient-dense food, and so you can get a lot out of a small piece of cheese.
Besides being high in protein, cheese also contains phosphorus, zinc, vitamin A, and even vitamin B12. It's a perfect food for your muscles, bones, and even your blood cells and heart. Once produced and aged, cheese is a very interesting food, full of complex flavors in one slice. That includes the rind or the hard outer coating.
This is the outermost layer of the cheese. It's where it's going to be exposed to air, and you can see on here the darker line. This is where it's going to lose moisture and have the most intense flavor. It might be more peppery or more assertive. But as part of the cheese, to understand the breadth of flavor, the center of the pate against the rind, is something that's really nice to understand what the cheesemaker is intending to produce there.
In addition to being popular with consumers, artisanal cheese making is helping some Virginia dairies stay solvent. Fluid milk prices have been low for years, meaning dairy farmers have struggled to make a profit.
There's a lot of farms who have turned to cheese making as a way of saving their milk production, their dairy farm. And yeah, it definitely gives hope to some farmers that need it.
Virginia will host the annual conference for the American Cheese Society July 31st through August 3rd in Richmond. Thousands of cheesemakers will be in the Commonwealth to compete for awards and accolades. There will be a cheese tasting event open to the public on the last day of the conference. To learn more about the conference, go to cheesesociety.org.
Virginia's dairy industry is the 23rd largest in the nation. For more than a century, selling cow's milk was the most profitable way to make a living for a dairy farmer. That's changed in recent years as consumer demand has declined and small dairy farmers are being pushed out. But the future looks bright for dairy products like cheese and yogurt. Thanks to a growing emphasis on locally produced foods by consumers, local cheeses are more popular than ever. In 2014, the overall economic impact of the Virginia cheese industry was $10.5 million. A few major supermarket chains are now carrying cow, goat, and sheep cheese products.
Hi, today we're going to be talking about snack peppers from the ground up. Please stay tuned.
Farm Bureau is the insurance provider of choice for farmers. But did you know all Virginians can benefit? In fact, most of our members are not farmers. As a member, you are supporting worthy causes like local Virginia food banks and the Ag in the Classroom program. Your $40 membership will easily pay for itself with the many savings options as well. Farm Bureau is made for Virginians. To learn more about the membership advantage, go to vafb.com or visit your local Farm Bureau.
You're going to need me. You're going to need all of us. You're going to need the next generation of leaders to face the challenges the future will bring. And we promise we'll be there when you need us.
Every winter, gardeners dream of next year's harvest. Chris Mullins with Virginia Cooperative Extension has been playing in his greenhouse with some snack peppers you're going to want to try from the ground up.
Well, welcome. Today we're at Virginia State University's Randolph Farm. It's winter time, so I wanted to come inside the greenhouse and show you some things that we're growing. We've got lots of tomatoes growing in here. We've also got peppers, and we're growing some snack peppers here. You might call them lunchbox peppers. They're sweet peppers, just kind of eaten like a snack. They're really a miniature bell pepper. They're very small, pretty easy to grow, really nice crop. So this time of the year, as you're thinking, you're going through the seed catalogs and you're thinking about what I want to grow, if you want to grow peppers, we might have some varieties here that you might want to try. So let's go and look at a plant, and I'll tell you a little bit about how to grow these. Well, this is a red variety. It's called Yum Yum Red. It's relatively new, but you should be able to find it out online, seed catalogs or your paper catalogs. There's lots of other snack varieties out there that you might want to try. For most of you, I would recommend putting transplants in the ground. Some of these are a little hard to find at your local garden center, but you can buy your seeds and maybe make transplants like we've done here with these lettuce seedlings, and then put them in the ground. Most of the time you're going to want to plant these when it warms up. Peppers like warm temperatures, so probably about mid-May or late May would be good for many gardeners. These are about 100-day variety it takes to mature. And then you get these nice red peppers as they go from green to red. And they're a good snack pepper. Now you can also grow these in containers, like we're growing them here if you don't have much land, a large pot with soilless media, and they do real well. You can see that they don't take up a whole lot of space. Now we've staked these a little bit, or we've trellised these a little bit. You might find in the garden, maybe a stake or a small cage might help these from flopping over. One other thing to think about on pepper plants are pest and disease. And they're pretty good. They don't have a lot of pest problems, but you might find some aphids occasionally. And aphids can be be fairly easily controlled with some sprays. There's some chemical and non-chemical sprays, insecticidal soap, neem products. They're somewhat safe that you might try. So remember to think about those as you're going throughout your pepper production season. When you harvest these, you don't want to pull the fruit off like you would maybe with tomatoes, because it might damage the pepper. So what I'd like to do is maybe take a sharp knife or some scissors, and you just hold the pepper and just cut it right above, right close to the stem, and there you're ready to go. Didn't damage the plant at all. So overall, these snack peppers are really great, nice to grow, sweet, and relatively easy to grow. Well, so for more information about pepper production or growing them in the garden, please contact your local county extension office and talk to a master gardener. For From the Ground Up, I'm Chris Mullins, and we'll see you next time.
From the Ground Up is presented with the generous advice and assistance of Virginia Cooperative Extension. Visit their website at ext.vt.edu.
Sweet treats are always welcome in February. Chef John Maxwell creates a homemade brownie featuring sweet potatoes. That's up next in the Heart of the Home.
And now, a sneak peek into a day in the life of a Virginia dairy cow. They get their day started. They have some lunch. Get some exercise. Spend time with their friends. And then end their day with dairy sweet dreams. Real dairy, real life, real delicious.
Virginia sweet potatoes are a welcome ingredient in any meal. Today, Chef John Maxwell uses this delicious ingredient for a sweet dessert in the heart of the home.
Hi, and welcome to the Heart of the Home. I'm Chef John Maxwell, and we're here at Meadow Hall in Meadow Event Park, where every week we get a chance to play with some great Virginia food. Today, it's kind of like a winter festival of Virginia food. We're going to make, I know this is terrible, and you're not going to want to, you're going to want to turn off and go away and do something else, but we're going to make a peanut butter brownie. Right? So, I happen to like it, and that's why we're doing it. So I've got the ingredients out here. It's got chocolate chips, got sweet potatoes, got sugar and cocoa. It's just some delightful stuff. So we're going to start with our dry ingredient here, the cocoa powder, and in that goes. I'm going to add to that sugar and some flour. And the ingredient amounts are on the website, so you'll be able to go there and figure out exactly how much of each of this stuff. We've got some baking soda. And stir this up. I want to make sure the dry ingredients are mixed really well so that the baking soda and the other ingredients are evenly distributed in the dry mix. It becomes much harder to do once it's wet. All right, so those are all mixed in there very nicely. And I'm going to add the sweet potato. I cooked these, peeled them, right, and now I've got them in here. Set that over there. And now the peanut butter, right? I melted this on the stove so it's nice and warm and it's loose. So I'm going to add that, right, into this mixture. Okay, set that back over here. Get this mixed around. I'm going to incorporate some of this, and then I'm going to add that extract. So I've got this nice and mixed. A tip is, if you're using leftover sweet potatoes and they're cold, you may want to add a little bit of warm water to this to get it to go into solution. But if you're using freshly baked or boiled sweet potatoes, the heat of the sweet potato will take care of that. Now, I'm going to add some chocolate chips to this and some vanilla extract. About a quarter teaspoon. So let me mix this up. Get that vanilla extract in there. All right, now we're ready. And I've got this pan that's been greased. Now you could use parchment paper on the bottom if you want. That's just an extra step, I think. So I don't generally do that, but you certainly can. Scrape this down really good. You need to get all of the stuff because this is pretty thick and you don't want it to stay behind. Now this is not going to be very thick at the bottom of this pan. The size of your pan will have something to do with that, but also it's going to rise a little bit from the baking soda, right? So you're going to get that brownie thickness. Get it spread out nice. Okay, there it is, all ready, and in it goes. Now, the brownie baked for 40 minutes. I took it out. I didn't think you needed to see me take it out of the oven. So I took it out and I set it over in a counter in a safe space and let it cool down, right? So now that it's cooled down, I'm going to go get it and come back over here and cut it and put it onto a plate. This is what happens when you let brownies cool next to a cameraman. There's a piece missing from here. It's still a little warm, so it's a little soft. Once it has a chance to really chill good, it'll set up nice. Right. And there we have it. We got a peanut butter and chocolate chip brownie. Sweet potato brownie. So join us next week on Heart of the Home, where we get to play with great Virginia food.
Recipes from the heart of the home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafb.com, as well as on Chef Maxwell's website at chefjohnmaxwell.com. 4 varieties of peanuts are raised in the U.S.: Runners, Virginia, Spanish, and Valencia. Runner peanuts are most commonly used for producing commercial peanut butter, but runners are typically raised in Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Texas, not in the Old Dominion. Virginia-style peanuts are raised on 170 farms in 8 localities in southeastern Virginia and a few parts of North Carolina. Representing 15% of the nation's peanut production, Virginia peanuts are typically used for gourmet snacks and ballpark peanuts. However, they're also often used for all-natural peanut butter products.
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Virginia is better known for its traffic jams than farming. But in this week's County Agriculture Close-Up, Dave Miller tells us that farmers in Prince William County are adapting to dense populations and new markets.
First visited by Captain John Smith of Jamestown, Prince William County once covered all of what is now northern Virginia. During the colonial period, it was a center for the tobacco trade. Up until the late 20th century, it had dozens of small dairy farms. Back in 1998, the leaders of Prince William County set aside for slow growth the western and northern edges of the county. Now known as the Rural Crescent, this area is where farming is still possible amid the subdivisions, and local farmers are finding ways to make a living.
Many people moving from the city or moving from other areas coming into the county, wanting to do entrepreneurial, urban agriculture, alternative type agriculture business. And so where crops and vegetables may have been, very popular in the past, we have mushroom growers, lettuce growers growing hydroponically. We have microgreens producers. We have flower farms. There's a lot of interest in new and alternative types of agriculture.
We have people in Farm Bureau that are interested in starting blueberry farms, raspberry farms, some of the other things that others have spoken of, flowers and microgreens and lettuce and things like that. So that's important to nurture that.
With 330 farms on more than 35,000 acres, agriculture continues to be a valuable part of Prince William's economy. Growers here earn more than $12 million from selling crops and livestock every year. The top farm commodity combines nursery, greenhouse, floriculture, and sod farms, generating $2.4 million each year. Another $2.1 million comes from raising cattle and calves. Grain and soybeans account for $1.9 million in cash receipts. There are several chicken operations, a small number of vegetable operations, and quite a few horses, alpacas, and sheep in the county. Many Prince William farmers have shifted to operations that adapt well to their suburban neighbors, like turf grass.
Went into the turf in 1997, and that's been a great market for us, to diversify. And it actually allowed us, when the dairy market started to crash, we got offered a fair market for our cattle. They actually approached us, and we went out of the dairy business. But the cows left in November of this year. So we were a dairy, grain, and sod farm, but now we're just a grain and turfs.
So we have 16 acres, but our flowers don't take up but even an acre. We have a couple of other little niche things going on that do take up space on the land, but we're able to grow the flowers in a very small area. So even if you don't have a lot of property in Prince William County, you could still be doing some sort of growing.
Diversification is the key to survival when farming close to urban areas. Growers like Taylor, a ninth-generation farmer originally from Pennsylvania, understand that large-scale operations are now out of the question, but their potential customers are right next door.
We have about 500,000 population in Prince William County. There's nearly a million in Fairfax County. So getting that word out to them it's a wonderful challenge.
I think there is interest in developing the agritourism business locally, whether it's a brewery or a winery or pick your own or pumpkin patch. I think there's opportunities, and we want to help each individual kind of figure out what's suitable for them.
My favorite thing about it is being able to make some money on the side through a hobby that we love, getting flowers and farm fresh things into the hands of people who, I always hear stories when I meet them at our honor stand, like, I'm taking these to someone who is, has cancer and they have chemo treatment, and every Friday I bring them, or, this is for someone's birthday and weddings.
Farmers would like to see more government planning options to better control growth on the remaining farmland.
They can't sell less than 10 acres because there is no tools in place. So if we could bring in tools that, our county has actually did a preservation study, and you came back and presented PDRs, purchase of developmental rights, trade of developmental rights, and cluster development. So that way they could do, like, if you have, take 60% of the land and preserve it, for parks, for open space, for, anything, agritourism, and then put the houses on 40% of the property.
Making a profit, weather worries, and competition from expensive development are all challenges to farming in the shadow of the nation's capital. But the farmers of Prince William County remain passionate about their businesses and their lifestyle, and they're adapting to their new neighbors to keep agriculture alive here. In Prince William County, I'm Dave Miller.
That's going to do it for this edition of Real Virginia. We are so glad you could join us to celebrate the bounty Virginia has to offer. Whether it's in your home, your garden, or your landscape, we are proud to say that this is Real Virginia. So for everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a good week.
Home will always be between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay.